extraordinary people from the community that are working within the community, either doing something extraordinary or living their dream in some way. And today we have Amy Karen Waterston, who has come to tell us about her passion, about creating some kind of way of getting through to children with history lessons, but making it really fascinating and interesting so that they'll actually want to study. So what do you want to tell us about?
Yeah, sure. It's basically just bringing sort of what children understand and what they know. For example, a school building, it's something they relate to, they go to every single day, and explaining the background to that building. So it's something they can relate to. So you're not just saying, here's a building and there's history behind it, because kids will be like, why am I learning about it? What's that got to do with me? So to have an actual, I know that building, I know that place, has the history behind it. And then it's connecting to, say, for example, Victoria and the Victorians. This is what was happening at this time when school was built. And then putting things that kids would understand. So, for example, this particular chocolate bar was being designed at the same time as your school was being built. So it's things that, not just buildings, but like stuff that they will, or football. When was their favourite football team sort of created, and then what was going on in the area at the time, so they got something to link it to, so it's real. So that kind of a thing. So
that's really exciting. Yeah. It's really interesting. It's really different. I like what you said about the chocolate bar. I mean, obviously, as soon as you say that to a child, then they're going to click in. But I would never have thought of that. So your mind is very creative. Yeah. So where did you come up with these ideas?
Well, I worked in a library for 5 years, and I worked with, it's a children's book club called Chatterbooks, and same kind of thing, obviously all to do with books, but I wanted to make it interesting for children, because with an adult you can sit there and say, right, we're going to read this book, and an adult will do it because they've got the ability to look at the world. Children, I think, are a bit more, they like having it's good for them to explore things, but I think in a way they've got to make their own decisions as to what they like, and making them or forcing them to read something is too much like school. So I started saying, okay, well, what can I put in a book club that's to do with books, but isn't actually reading the same book? And I thought, okay, well, things like, cookery books. So we made food. I made little truffles with them. Craft books. I made craft with them. We looked at audiobooks. So I got an dictaphone. I bought a little history book in. Some sound effects on a CD. I got them to each choose a sound effect to do with their chapter, and I went around and recorded them with the dictaphone, and they made their own audiobook. Bits of things like texting, or emails, or I did Halloween, I did epitaphs, and that was quite fun, and we made like potion bottles, and so it's things that involve reading and writing, but aren't just sitting there reading a chapter from a book.
So why history in particular?
I love it.
You love history.
I love it. It's a passion of mine. It's something that I relate to.
You can see.
I love it. Yeah. So if I was talking about maths, it wouldn't be quite as much fun because I don't like maths. But history, I think the thing with history I feel is so important is that everything's made up of history. Like, even go back to chocolate bar. Chocolate has history. And you wouldn't think about it looking at a chocolate bar. Well, it does. I mean, think about where it came from and how it's used, and, the different stages it went through to become what we know as chocolate. And how it interlinks with the rest of the world. At the same time, this chocolate bar was being, chocolate was advancing what was happening with the rest of the world. And it's just quite an interesting...
So clever.
Everything links in together, and I think it's like a massive story.
Yeah.
It's literally, and it's got the science fiction and crime, and you can take any genre, and that's history.
So what's your favourite part of history then?
Classical studies. I love classical studies. I think they were just so advanced so long ago, and I think it's just an amazing thing they could do that. And, it took us, like, the things the Greeks could do and the Romans could do, centuries. I mean, obviously we had things like Stonehenge, and so to a point, we were incredibly advanced, but I quite like sort of the Greeks, and especially the Greeks, the Romans, and it's just fascinating.
The only funny thing I ever saw about history was Horrible Histories.
I love Horrible Histories.
Absolutely hilarious. They had it at the Swan Theatre, which is, our local theatre.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely brilliant. It took you all through history. So in a way, you're thinking on those lines, but in a more a different way.
So rather than looking out sort of like the icky bits of history, which is amazing, I love them, but look, sort of taking things that the good bits, but taking things that perhaps or like from a football club. What's the history of their football club and what's happening within the world at the time. So rather than taking out the icky bits of the football club, which there probably are lots of things, looking at sort of within the overall structure of what's going on at the time and history, and so.
So how would you start something like this, Amy? What would you need to do in order to create something where you could take it to the kids in the way that you would want to? How would you do it?
Yeah, I think I'd start with things that are universally accessible to children. So, for example, a chocolate bar or a favourite sweet, or I don't know, perhaps a doll or a football team, or something which they can say, oh yes, I eat that, or I watch that, or I wear that, or I play with that, or and then bring in the history to it, and then try and kind of do it that way, and hopefully more and more kids will end up becoming interested. But it's like with the book club, advertise it to about 5 or 6 kids, and then someone began their friends, and then someone else from school came along, and someone saw it happening, so that looks good fun, I'll go. And so it came to, it kind of doubled within 6 months, just from people knowing people or seeing what was going on and wanting, that looks interesting, I'll go and join in.
Well, you see, the thing about moving on TV is we want to try and offer you and everyone the opportunity to do something with us. So how do you see that happening?
I'd love just to make them. I think it would be quite fun to take a handful of children and almost get them to explore it. Because I think the thing, hands-on history with children, and then hopefully that will appeal to other children. When they see it's not just a boring adult sitting in a chair talking.
So you basically would film yourself with a group of kids, with a part of history, and then discovering
it, and
sounds very interesting. Sounds very exciting.
It's like the Children Open Air Museum. It's something kids know, and they can walk around all the historical houses, and I think it's just something it's hands-on, it's there, it's accessible, rather than reading in a boring history book, which I love doing, but lots of kids don't.
Well, as you say, it's a very different way, exciting way to get history across to kids and to get them. I mean, one thing we were talking about this when we first met, and I was saying that history is very important in the way that you do need to know what we've been through. I mean, I believe that you've got to let it go and use it in a more neutral way.
Yeah.
So we learn a lot about everybody's histories, and we all come together and move on, basically, because a lot of people hold on to history. How do you feel about that? I mean, some people actually hold on to what happened to them, like countries, as we know, will hold on to the pain and the history of it all, and they can't move on. And then you have wars and you have problems. How do you feel about all that?
I think it's learning from the past, and hopefully the mistakes that our ancestors made, fingers crossed, we won't make ourselves. So I think just to learn about, obviously there's going to be a certain point, that things, for example, things that are never going to happen again. So, for example, the ancient wars with arrows and cannons, and this is not going to happen because we've moved on. Fingers crossed. But it seems like concentration camps. Hopefully we have learned from that, and it will never happen again. So I think it is very important to learn about these things. I have to admit, modern history, I have to admit, I don't like learning about it. I think it's too close. For example, my grandmother was alive in World War II, and she's got her own stories, and it's kind of very, very close. I prefer the things where you can look back and you're a bit more sort of, like you were saying, you're not going to let go, but a bit more one step back from it, so you can judge it in a neutral way.
It's easier to romanticise it. You mean like programmes like they put on TV, they've got Atlantis and stuff like that, because you can watch it from, as you say, from a distance and create your own story around it, because you're not too close to it.
I mean, for example, kind of the ancients, Greeks and Persian were always at war with each other, and but 2,000 years later, you can take a step back from that and start learning at it as a subject. So this is this side, and this is that side, and these are the conflicts, and this is how it was resolved, and this is the wars and that. But you're that one step back from it, so you're not kind of up.
Great. Well, it's absolutely fascinating. I love your passion, and I love your ideas. So thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
having
me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So that was the amazing Amy Karen Waterston, with beautiful, beautiful ideas. And if you're interested in what we've been talking about, you can contact us. We'd be really interested in your views and what you think.
Yeah.
And if you want to come on board and work with us, you know, if your kids, if you're interested in your kids getting involved, or your school or library group or anything, you can contact me at Moving On TV, or you can email me Lauren, Lauren, at movingontheatre.co.uk, and you can call us on 07437 532 798. You can text or leave a message, but we'll always get back to you. So have a beautiful day and keep moving along with Moving On TV. Thank you.